Can you hear me? Just want to make sure because the last time it wasn't working. So I'm going to put my hands free once we go live. Hey there.
Hello. Can you
Hi.
see me?
Yes. How
Awesome.
are you?
I'm good. I am good.
Put the hands free and see if you can hear me.
I'm trying to find a place to put my phone
Okay.
so I don't have
Can,
to hold it.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear
Oh,
you.
all right. Perfect.
Like 2 seconds to find something to prop my phone up on that's
All right.
better size here.
Something's wrong with my hands free because
All right. I think this will work. I have a little game
oh, you have a game. Interesting.
called What Do You Meme? It's a meme game.
Ah, I'm excited. Are you going to play it with me?
I could pull one of these cards out. Let's see if I can use this part of the box.
Okay.
Let's see what we got here. So,
Before we dive into our game and everything, I just want you to give a quick, brief introduction about who you are, what you do, where you're from.
of course. Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Wetzel. I'm the founder of Epic Initiator Coaching, and I'm a trauma-informed attachment-based relationship coach. So, how I guess the kind of coaching that I do is really based around relationships, like all of our relationships. So I know that my front door is relationships, but really what we get into a lot is the relationship with yourself and how you actually have the love life that you want. You have the life you want. And it's really finding out why that is, like why you want what you want. And if you don't have what you want, why that is. So that's kind of my blurb. Are you typing or
Not
something?
working.
Because it's very clicky.
Yes, I'm just going to let the hands free go. It's this, I can't hear you properly with the hands free. It's causing a lot of distortion. So I'm just going to let it go and just do it like this. All right.
Okay.
Okay. I'm excited about the game.
Oh yeah. Okay. So let's see. Um, so what the game does is you actually everyone's probably familiar with this picture. So really how you make a meme is you take like a picture.
Okay.
These pictures are worth like 1,000 words.
Okay.
And then basically for like attachment, you could be like, what your anxious self wants to do when your avoidant partner doesn't pick up their phone. So it's just, it's just like kind of adding a little fun there. And there's just so many different ones. Here's one that's like,
Oh my
it's like,
God.
it says, oh no, baby, what is you doing? And that's like maybe your higher self when you go back to that toxic ex,
Right. Right. That's funny.
Here's another cute one, the dog.
Oh my gosh.
And it's
Where
like,
do you get
oh, this game is called What Do You Meme?
what do you mean? Oh my God. It's like a new thing there?
I don't think it's that new, but it is a game. WhatDoYouMeme.com.
Ah,
It says mostly uncensored, but anyway, it's just I really like pictures and kind of adding little thoughts and things to them. So you can I like to play with memes. I make if you've been to my page, you see that I'm a meme lover. I love comedy. I love ridiculous things. I'm obsessed with drag queens. Like
that's
so
interesting. That's cool.
yeah.
Uh, okay, let's just dive into our conversation. So for our audience who are not quite aware about attachment styles,
Yeah.
let's talk about a few of them because I know there are many out there, but I believe so there are a few very common ones. And there's the anxious, there is
Mhm.
the avoidant,
Yes.
and there's the secure, right? These are the three main, and then there are more.
Oh, yeah. So actually, I will I'll do my breakdown of
Okay.
generally how it works. So I would say there's two main categories.
Okay.
There's secure and insecure. So either you have a very secure bond, you feel safe and loved and connected, it's very consistent, you feel like you belong, you feel like you're worthy, you feel safe to express yourself and your feelings, relationships flow for you, that there's a sense of ease there, there's a sense of satisfaction. I get what I want. Like, this feels so good. Like 90 plus percent of the time, like 95% of the time, life is pretty good.
Right.
That's secure in relationships.
Okay.
Now, I would say most people probably fall into the insecure attachment category.
Okay.
Because if you really think about it, like, what is insecure attachment? That's like, I'm not safe. I can't trust you. You're getting too close. You've gone too far away. I'm not okay. I'm not okay with you. I'm not okay by myself. So we have these two categories. And what you may notice about the two categories is it's either you're in alignment with what you may call higher self, or you're out of alignment.
Okay.
Right? So you're either connected to that part of you that feels very empowered, or you're in a past regurgitation of your traumas and your patterns.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So so secure, like, if someone's secure, they're probably not here. They're somewhere else. They're frolicking in the fields with their partner, or they're on a different live or a different webinar learning about an area of life where they don't feel secure in. Right? So they're learning about, like, maybe finances, or they're learning about, water skiing, or, tap dancing or something, where they're like, I'm horrible at this, but I really want it. And so for those that are here that are insecure, that have insecure attachment, it's like, you're here because relationships that's something that's incredibly important to you. And it's also something that maybe you feel like you have been standing on the outside, like looking through the store window in the glass and being like, I want that. I want the thing that I see on the movies, and I want the thing that I like see some of these Instagram couples having. Like, I want that, but for whatever reason in my life, I haven't been able to create that. And I feel like there's just something I'm not aware of, or whatever, and it's just fucking up my potential to do that.
Right.
So the insecure category of attachment, you could break it down into 3 or 4 types. 3 or 4 types.
Okay.
Okay. The two main ones are anxious and avoidant.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So anxious means I have departure anxiety. Oh my God, you're going away. Where are you going? Are you ever going to come back? I miss you. I need a hug right now. I'm feeling so scared. Like, and not all of that's necessarily anxious, but it's how that energy, it's like, if you're reaching out to someone consistently to try to regulate, if
like being more needy,
it can come off as being more needy, being clingy. People say, like, she's a stage 5 clinger. It's like, when someone, so how there's like lifeguards, if there's a drowning person,
right,
and they're flailing,
right,
that they're actually they're trained to kick off or not go in like this. They're like trained to like kick off and not and to make sure they're not going to get dragged down, right? Because they're trying to rescue that person. And oftentimes, if they have to, they will try to knock the person out to incapacitate them so they can actually rescue them. Because a person that's in their anxious free fall, they don't have the capacity to soothe or regulate themselves or work with those emotions that are there. So they're going to go, oh my gosh, I need you. And they don't necessarily have that safe sense of being an adult, of being empowered in their own body, because some point along their journey, they weren't really taught that, how to do that, how to self-soothe, right? So there's almost like a desperation and a bit of like pulling energy. I need you to be okay. Like I need you for me to be okay.
Yeah.
Like come here and help me and help fix this, whatever's going on here. Help
Yeah.
fix me.
Right.
And that can feel it can show up in a lot of ways. It can feel somewhat manipulative sometimes, even though that's not the intention.
Right.
Or it can come across as like even angry or like vengeful. If they don't get the attention, then they'll like kind of do something to inflict pain upon you. Like, see, this is what it feels like. Or and it's some form of like entitlement, because they're like, you should have been there for me. Like, you need to be there for me. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. Because if you're their source of love and their source of being okay, they expect you to show up and fix their feelings, right?
That's toxic, right? That would be toxic.
Yeah. So technically you could classify it as toxic, but if you really like zoom out and kind of look at what it is a person who is in arrested development. So that person, they're in an adult body now, but they didn't really get what they needed as a small child. Maybe an infant. They never had anyone just hold them and soothe their feelings. Or maybe when they were a toddler, they never had their parents pursue them or say, you're safe, you're okay. And trying to manage all those emotions in a really small little body, and children do not have the ability to self-regulate, which is why we need our parents.
This only happens, a person only becomes anxious because of the childhood trauma. Do you think that people who were secure but had a really abusive or a narcissistic or some kind of bad relationship, intimate relationship, that they could tune into and becoming an anxious person, leading to becoming
So here's the thing. If a person starts off with like let's say a person has a secure, rather very calm like upbringing,
right?
Okay, it's almost interesting. You can have a lot of things modeled for you, but there's going to be some gaps in your understanding of how relationships go, which and attachment is actually plastic. Just it has the properties of neuroplasticity, like the brain, like the nervous system. It's changeable, it's influenceable. So if you are secure and you have like a major trauma that happens in your nervous system and it doesn't get resolved and you don't really know how to make sense of it, then you absolutely can start showing up as more anxious, like maybe afraid of people dying, or like if someone ghosts you or just disappears, and then like maybe a year later you find out, they're not dead, they're alive, living somewhere else, that is going to shape your reality and how you see it. So it's absolutely possible, I think, for that to happen, because what I find interesting is you really aren't going to see someone who had a secure upbringing teach a webinar on secure relationships. You know what I mean? That's someone who's like, they didn't have to understand all of the elements that made them secure. They just know that they had that safety, that there were certain things modeled for them that really helped them to get into, or at least to feel as though they're getting into a relationship easily. And sometimes when we all have blind spots in our skill sets or our understanding of life and how it works. So I do think it is potentially possible for someone to be secure or have secure parents and have some form of maybe like generational trauma that they weren't aware of, or new life circumstances that really kind of shock them, initiate them into something new. But I will say, like, generally, I do think it comes from some form of unresolved trauma. So something happening to the person, and then as a result of that circumstance or event happening, there's something that happens on the inside that says, I'm not safe, or I'm not okay. And what the hell was that? And I have no idea why that happened. And I don't know how I feel about it. And I'm still processing all of this. Um, and also you could have a fairly idyllic childhood, and like nobody's perfect. Like no one has perfect parents. Like no human is perfect all the time. Like no one is the child of Jesus or Buddha or, you know,
Right. Yeah.
any of those like spiritual masters.
Right.
I don't know if any of the spiritual masters had children, which is, you know, but maybe they did. I don't know.
Maybe they did.
Maybe
Oh,
they did. But basically at some point there's going to be something that happens, and a child is going to make a certain meaning from that situation. So it doesn't always have to be very overt trauma. It could be a series of like small things that happened, and then you as a child make some decisions about the way life is based on what you saw. Because children, as children, we really operate in theta waves most of the time to absorb information as quickly as possible to really ensure our survival. Because like the viability of a human being, it's not so good until after the age of 7. If you think about how vulnerable and helpless a human being is post utero, it's insane. It takes 18 years for a human to grow into a fully evolved, well, 18, and then if you consider until the prefrontal cortex
right.
is fully developed, that's 25 years for the
25.
human to be like somewhat cooked.
Yeah.
And by that time, you've absorbed so much of the modeling and everything that's happened. It's just going in without much investigation or questioning.
Right. Do you think, though, that people who are sensitive or highly sensitive could be people who become more anxious also with time?
So I believe, just from some of the things I've read and like my interactions, so I mainly work with like fearful avoidance and disorganized types, which would be those that have both anxious and avoidant. And if you think about attachment styles, you want to think about attachment as strategy. How do I get the love that I need, and how do I stay safe? How do I survive? Like get the love I need and I survive and I stay safe. So someone that is anxious is taught that they need to pursue or go after that love or that external thing of safety. And those that are more avoidant have had their boundaries transgressed, or it had someone maybe just emotionally using them or dumping on them, or maybe they're a parentified child and there's no real sense of like individuation or self. So they're like, I'm not safe when I'm around other people. I'm just getting overwhelmed. All this stuff is coming at me. What was your question again? I got a little sidetracked.
I even forgot my question. I was asking was that if a person is very sensitive, can they become...
Right. Okay. So some of my theories about highly sensitive people. So we actually know that highly sensitive people, that is a biological thing.
Yeah.
It is. There are more mirror neurons. There are more actual like nerve endings in the skin. It is a literal biological trait to be highly sensitive. And then there's a bunch of different neurohormone like precursors or deviations in the DNA about how like dopamine is processed by the brain, and how acetylcholine and all these different pathways. And there's lots of articles on the brains of introverts versus extroverts, and it's very fascinating. But also, if you think about it, if you want to look at it from a evolutionary perspective or standpoint, why would it be advantageous for a person to be highly sensitive? And where might that come from? So if you consider high sensitivity being more aware, having more spidey senses as what's going on in your environment, being able to be highly attuned to changes in emotional energy, micro expressions, subtext, nonverbal communications, just all these different things. When you're highly aware, that's a way to stay safe. So from what I've seen, a lot of the people that come to me are also highly sensitive, and a traumatized nervous system can show up as someone who is highly sensitive because they're hypervigilant. because their environment was not safe.
Mm.
And even if it wasn't necessarily their environment, it's likely a generational thing. So if you look into that book Mark Wallen wrote called It Didn't Start With You, he talks about generational trauma and the experiment that they did with these mice. So the first generation of mice that they were playing with, they put them in a cage. They had the bottom of the cage set up with an electric grid to shock them.
Okay.
So they ended up wafting in this chemical scent, and I don't remember the name of the chemical, but they said it has a similar scent to cherry blossoms. They wanted a scent that was very specific. So first they bring in the scent, and then they shock the bottom of the cage. So it actually tied an event with a precursor with an event. So we have cherry blossom smell and shock together. So they bred those mice and they put those babies into another cage. No grid, but they're observing their biochemistry. So then they waft in the smell of cherry blossoms, and guess what their nervous systems did?
Shock.
They anticipated the shock.
Right. Yeah.
So they found that like generational trauma and all those patterns and messages can be encoded in the DNA for up to like 14 or 16 generations, which is almost like I think 500 years. So if you think of yourself as the end product of the evolution of a series of human beings, we are encoded with certain danger signals. And if you grew up in a highly unpredictable or chaotic environment where you perhaps had a parent that was both a source of safety and great fear, or they were scary, but they were like, you loved them, you felt loved by them. Sometimes they were fun and playful, and other times they were terrifying. That will likely set you up for having to be highly sensitive to want to adapt to that so that you're not tripping them up. So cue the walking on eggshells, cue the emotional fixing, cue anything that a child needs to do to psychologically self-sacrifice to ensure their own survival and the safety and success of that family unit. So that happens somewhat unconsciously. It's like there will be a child or children in the family that will throw themselves on the proverbial grenade to absorb all the shocks, or lean in where there's been a trauma, and like you have a parent that has gone into depression and then suddenly no one's taking care of the other children in the household. So one of the children may step up and take on a role at a very young age because it's about survival. It's not about thriving at that point. The human system or psyche will do what it needs to do to step up and fill in that gap to ensure survival.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a bit about avoidant people. What are their traits?
Yes. Okay. I was like, yes, let's get back to the other attachment styles. So avoidant is they have a approach anxiety. So that means you're coming close to me and I don't actually know if you're safe or not.
Oh.
Yeah, because this is generally someone who has either lived in an experience of somewhat neglect. So they just didn't have a lot of human interaction, and their nervous system is like, what is this that's happening? You're moving close to me to try to connect with me. Like, what is that? What are you doing? Right? So it's kind of like, this is not familiar.
Right.
Or you'll have someone who is used to a very anxious parent that is consistently like violating their boundaries. So the parent's going through their stuff. The parent is hovering behind them like a helicopter parent. Don't do that. You're doing it wrong. Let me fix it for you. Coming and undoing everything behind them, undermining what they're doing. So it's or the children that are not allowed to really think or feel for themselves. The parents are there just hovering all the time. They don't get a chance to individuate, and then they don't get a sense of boundaries. And then it's just so much overwhelm. It's like there's no room for how they feel. It's just the parents kind of dumping on them or trespassing or stepping too far or saying, this is how you think, this is how you feel. And it just becomes very painful. And what they want, what they're saying is like, I need space to know who I am. And then also in that place, like their emotions aren't really getting taken care of either. the same problem with the anxious person, but it's a different, like the wound is different, and you can see how they end up being poles. Like this is polarity. So they end up on two sides of the poles, and they're really kind of at the origin the same person with these like core woundings and core fears, but they complement each other perfectly. And that is very magnetic. Like attracts like, but complements also, you know.
Right.
They attract, they magnetize. So avoidance will I'm just trying to think about more of them. So instead of humans being safe, they will often turn to process or substance addictions or micro addictions. And that means instead of attaching or bonding with humans, because humans haven't been reliable or safe, you'll find that they will more likely attach to animals as their primary bond. And that could be an anxious person too, but you'll see it with both anxious and avoidant. With micro addictions, so nail biting, overindulging, watching YouTube, distracting, spacing out, or process addictions like porn or being a workaholic, because then they feel safe and connected to something. It feels like it's within their control, and they can go there to like kind of have a sense of safety and connection and regulate their nervous system. So, and then also you find people that are more in that category are like your addicts, people that really struggle with substance addictions of all kinds. So it's a really big challenge because the feelings become overwhelming, and then it's like, I don't know what to do with these feelings, and they push away. So it can, I think avoidant energy can be a little bit more challenging to work with and kind of decipher, because it can almost feel like, well, that's correct. Like, I just don't like this person. I need to get away. It'll feel very similar to the feeling of dismell. So if you're just walking down the sidewalk and you see like a giant like pile of turds, you're probably going to be like, oh, nasty. Like what? You know, if there's, you're going to be like, ugh, right? It's a very similar feeling when an avoidant has someone that's very anxious coming towards them. They're going to be like, ugh. So it kind of feels like, oh, that's correct. I should just be grossed out by it. And of course, I think to some degree there is a instinctive, like mechanistic process there, which is saying, I have my resources that are for me, and I have a limited amount of resources, so I can't have anyone grabbing onto me and holding onto me. And if that person is weak, maybe they're injured. So you kind of see this in the animal kingdom, where if an animal is injured, the whole pack doesn't go to try to rescue them. They're kind of like, they can get left behind. But as humans, like we have a prefrontal cortex, we have all these other challenges because we have morality, and so it just gets very complicated, where humans, like we're very tribal, and we naturally feel very responsible for each other. So it becomes like kind of a tricky, messy thing. Like, how do you navigate someone that has needs, that actually has trauma and is trying to heal that trauma, trying to feel better through you, at the same time where you have trauma, where it's like you've been wounded by someone grabbing onto you or trespassing you. So it's like, that is a perfect container for a lot of suffering, but a lot of potential evolution between the two people.
Yeah. What happens if an anxious person is dating an avoidant? Ooh.
Yeah. So it can be really spicy. Like there can be a lot of initial attraction. It can feel, you know, oh my God, this is amazing in the beginning, because the avoidant is going to be naturally tapped in and tuned into, okay, what does that person need to be okay, so they don't emotionally dump on me or freak out. So they're actually conditioned to be a caretaker in a certain sort of way. And then the anxious, they're set up to look for someone to like take care of them. And they can also have certain like caretaking aspects where they're like, oh, if I'm a really good girl, like you'll love me, kind of thing. Right? But the problem is that the avoidant can only really keep that up for a certain amount of time, because they're not actually in touch with themselves or responding to their own needs. They're just giving what they think the other person wants. And then at some point they're like, who am I? And like, I don't want this anymore, and now they're annoying me and I feel resentful and I've lost interest, and that can cause a lot of problems. And then meanwhile, the anxious person is like, oh my God, it was so good. What happened?
Mm.
I was getting everything I wanted. Like, I thought this was it. And then it's like at a certain point along that timeline, whether it's however long the avoidant could keep it up, like three weeks, 3 months, like a year, 2 years, 5 years, until you have kids, like whatever the breaking point is, where they're like, I can't anymore, because they've been self-abandoning. In fact, both people have been self-abandoning. And what you have is a recipe for a codependent relationship. I'm going to give you this to appease you so that you're happy and you won't face the consequences of not being able to deal with your emotions. And the anxious person is kind of like, I'm gonna love you and smother you and also move towards you and
not take
um,
grip of my own emotions.
right, and like I'm gonna try to fix you. So when you're struggling with alcoholism or you're working too much, I'm gonna try to point that out and tell you all the things I see wrong so that you can fix it and then love me more. So it ends up being a really like a really
Right, a subtle war where both are trying to be not themselves, and
right.
then, you know, then it explodes eventually.
Yeah, so it's a big like push and pull. It can get really gnarly, where it's quite painful for both people, because the anxious person might say something to the avoidant, like, you just don't care, like you don't care. And it's not that they don't, it's that their own protective mechanisms kick in, where disgust actually gives them a sense of power to stay separate or to stay away, because they didn't have the boundaries, or they weren't able to enforce the boundaries when they were younger. So it's almost this like instinct to be like, ew, I need to get away when this person is being emotional or needs anything from me, because it's just too much. It's like, I can't do it. I don't have the resource. I'm going to fail. And it's interesting, because it's like, I feel like both of those attachment styles, if you kind of keep following them down, it's almost like you see that the anxious becomes the avoidant, because inside they're avoiding their feelings.
Yeah.
And on the inside, the avoidant becomes anxious, because they're like, if I can't sustain this, I'm going to fuck up and then you're going to leave me. So,
Yeah.
and there's other layers to this. So it's,
Yeah. So let's say that somebody comes to you, they're a couple, anxious and avoidant. What are some of the things that you would tell them? Can it make it work? Is it going to be impossible? Or, because I believe that you can overcome these things, right? Working on yourself, understanding your
yeah,
attachment style, and moving from that to a more secure attachment style.
right. So this is what I found in coaching and consulting over the years, is that I found a decent sweet spot for coaching is kind of this. So if you have someone that is too anxious, they need to do some therapy and learn like some grounding and self-soothing to get into a place where they can actually do some coaching, because without that, they're not going to want to take any like personal responsibility. They're like, fuck that, I don't want to soothe myself, I need this thing. So that it doesn't work so well. And generally, the partner that is more anxious is going to be the one that's going to seek out some form of therapy or coaching, because the anxiousness barks so loudly. It is like free falling panic and terror in your nervous system. That person is the one who's like, something's wrong. But the interesting thing about the avoidant is that they're just going to be like, ooh, gross. I don't like them anymore. So they're not really looking for help. They're kind of like, I don't know why. I just don't, I have trouble connecting with people, and I get bored and then I move on. Or, suddenly I'm in a committed relationship, and then a few years later, I just want to have sex with someone else. I'm bored. But they attribute it to the other person, but they don't really necessarily take responsibility. So we have both people not necessarily taking responsibility. But if you have the person who can kind of see past both of those things that are happening and go, wait a second, I'm seeing a pattern in my life, and wherever I go, there I am, and I seem to be the common denominator in this pattern. And which I think is kind of interesting. So I really enjoy and find that I coach a lot of people that are fearful, avoidant, or disorganized. And then I have another theory, and I'll tell you a little bit about that. But it's because I believe they have both parts in them, and they've got enough avoidant, it kind of balances them out. And they've got enough anxious, like they kind of balance each other out in a way. Not to say that they're functional. It can be really, really hard to be disorganized and to be fearful avoidant. But you've got so much stuff going on that it's almost like unavoidable, undeniable that there's something going on. And so in some ways, those people are blessed, but maybe blessed by the level of suffering there, because it's like they are being jolted repeatedly to wake up and to look at what's there. So, and this is really my personal theory. Like, I believe that every human technically is disorganized. And I don't know if I would say possibly fearful avoidant, but I would say disorganized, because when you distill each of the attachment styles down into their foundational components, like what are we really looking at? We're looking at fear. The fear that we cannot survive something that has an emotional basis. But each of these fears are existential, meaning that these fears are tied to our very existence. And every human experiences every existential fear at some point in their life, whether it's small or large. So everyone has experienced the fear of losing someone or the fear of not being okay in the absence of other people. You might be a secure person, and you might find yourself out in the desert suddenly alone without anyone nearby. You bet you're going to have some fear coming up about being left alone and your ability to keep yourself safe to some degree. And you might argue like that's not necessarily just attachment, but there are so many different categories that in life where our attachment style affects every single one of those things. So you might be somewhat secure in relationships, but have an insecure attachment style with money or your business, and you can have different
categories,
behaviors that show up across the board. So if you heal one area, it improves the other. But I would say that to some degree, everyone experiences those same existential fears. Now, I think the main difference is someone that is more secure. It's like they're experiencing that state of being connected and safe and in flow when they're with themselves and in flow with others. Like, they don't get into a ton of fights, or if they do have a disagreement, they're able to turn towards the other person and have a compassionate confrontation. Literally just me. I'm turning towards the situation and I'm going to share who I am and how I feel, and we're going to be able to talk this out, and no matter what, like, I'm going to be okay and we're going to be okay, and it's not the end of the world. Even if this relationship ends, like, I feel very sturdy in that way. So I would really say it's about our connection to that empowered part of ourselves, and that's part of this journey, is to keep tapping into the part of us that knows we're empowered, that knows we're always connected, that we always belong, that we're okay, that there are more resources there, that scarcity is a state of mind or an energetic vibration. And it's really just the practice of being in that state more and more.
Right. What would you advise somebody who's out there listening to you right now and has identified themselves as anxious? How do they help themselves come to a more secure attachment?
Well, it's kind of interesting because in the question that you ask, you said, how can they help themselves? And what's interesting, like what we talked about earlier, is children cannot self-regulate. Right. So what happens when we grow up and we're in adult bodies, but we have these personality aspects where we feel completely emotionally out of control? How do we really learn to consciously reparent ourselves so that we can regulate ourselves? I would say one of the best ways to help yourself is to actually seek help from another person that is secure or that can model or that can teach you how to do that for yourself. And there are a number of great practitioners, and there's coaches and therapists and people that teach nervous system regulation and emotional healing and all of those things. And the reasoning behind that is you're learning how to engage with your own feelings and to soothe yourself. But in that process, you are safely co-regulating with another human to get the skills that you didn't get as a child from your parents.
Interesting. And you'll say the same for an avoidant?
Yeah. Yeah, because here's the thing, like as humans, we're actually set up to secret compartmentalize our self from ourselves. Like we are meant to hide things. So humans, we have at least 31 documented coping strategies or defense mechanisms. And what this is a way for our psyche to hide things. And a lot of them are actually really familiar. People have heard of them before, like projection. So when I'm projecting something onto another person, I'm not taking ownership of that for myself. I'm saying you did this to me and you're the enemy, not taking any responsibility for my own behaviors or actions. That's because at a time earlier in life, you didn't have the resources or the capability to process that. So it's a way of like putting our power outside of ourselves or hiding the truth from ourselves until such a time that we're ready to confront the truth and really make meaning of and understand the larger universal truth behind what really happened and the meaning that we made of it, so that we can choose a new identity or belief.
Right.
Some of the other ones are minimalization, like, oh, it wasn't that bad, no big deal, or their trauma was worse than mine, my trauma is not important. Suppression, where you actively push down a memory. You're like, I really don't want to think about that, and you push it down. Repression, when your subconscious does it immediately, it'll just try to wipe your hard drive so you don't have access to something that was really painful. Their dissociation, leaving your body, numbing. There's all different types of coping strategies. So when you think about it as an individual, when you were trying to navigate the maze of your subconscious labyrinth by yourself, and at the same time fearing that there's a giant minotaur in there that's going to get you if you try to feel your feelings, and you don't even know how to enter like the labyrinth, it's like saying, yeah, go ahead and heal yourself. And it's like, wouldn't it be better to have someone guide you and to have a torch and hold it in front of you so you can feel safe and like start to see the walls and start to learn a process of how you navigate the labyrinth? And also, when you come to the minotaur or the monster in your subconscious, or the parts of you that you would rather not see, or the events or traumas that happened to you that you weren't able to process then, isn't it so much better to have someone there that can actually help you process, as opposed to you reliving the trauma of you being a child that was neglected or left alone with your emotions your whole life? And then we end up doing the same thing to ourselves, and we try to do this self-healing thing, which there is a need, of course, for self-healing and for us to go in and have our own journey. But that can't necessarily happen if we are fully under-resourced and we haven't had the emotional development or psychological support to get to that place in life where we can do that. And so people waste years and years and time and money trying to solve things for themselves, where they don't have to show up on camera, or they don't have to go out in person, and they don't have to make connections, and they don't have to step in the arena. But that is not how it's done. You get more information, but it's not embodied. So there are no changes. You stay the same. You are effectively the same person. And you keep living in Groundhog's Day of hell. What's that?
I think with social media also, there's so much information out there, and people think that just reading these things is helping them heal. And that's what I tell people, that you're just taking tons of information in there, you're not actually working. You think you're working, or you read this, it's relevant, and now you think you've done the work. You've not done the work. It's just done the surface work where you just identify the problem or the issue.
Right.
You've
Yeah.
done not. For that, you need somebody who can help you there.
Right.
Especially.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's funny if you're looking at the coaching industry and be like, oh my God, there's so many coaches everywhere. It's because people need help and people are under resourced, and it's kind of like a weird catch 22, because when you have trauma, you will likely have energy leaks in different areas of your life, whether that's relationship or your bank account or your business. You're going to have it showing up across the board, because wherever you go, there you are. You can't necessarily escape it.
Right.
But there needs to be a moment when you say, I've learned enough. Like I've read enough books. Nothing is changing, and I'm going to be really honest and just acknowledge, like, I'm not an expert in this area. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, every person has their own area of expertise, at least by the time, they reach their maybe like early 30s, maybe 40s and beyond. You get to a place where you are usually a master in some area or across many areas, where someone can come to you and say, I have a problem and I think it's this and I think this is the solution. And on their own, it will take them hours or maybe years or maybe decades to solve. But you having that level of mastery or understanding will say, no, actually, it's not this, it's this. And this is the process. I already did it. I did that 5 years ago. I know how to, operate with this thing. And I actually know exactly what that is. But also, let's find out what it is for you, and take this process over here and customize it to you so that you can understand it and you can get it and you can learn to master it and rinse and repeat. But what people do when it comes to relationships is they look around and they go, oh, I look at all my friends, or they just kind of seem to do relationships effortlessly. Like, what's wrong with me? And it's like, every single human is different and has a very unique journey and a unique trauma history. And by comparing ourselves to another person that seems to be thriving in relationships is like trying to pick up a basketball and looking at Michael Jordan, game replays and being like, it's so easy for him. What's wrong with me? But you're not seeing his entire life and his entire history and all the things that he's worked on. It's like, you're not seeing any of that, but you're using that idea to shit on yourself and make yourself feel awful. And it's like, you have to, like, at some point it's helpful to try to recognize, like, what am I doing to myself by assuming that I know what it is, or trying to go at this alone, because I'm literally re-traumatizing myself. I'm doing what my parents did to me by trying to figure it all out on my own as a small child, or taking care of other people when I don't even know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. That does make sense. Absolutely. I wanted you to also shed some light on, so you did shed light on disorganized, but there was one more you said, avoidant, fear avoidant, right?
Avoidant.
Fearful.
And yeah, I touched on this a little bit, but really, if you go through the attachment styles, you're kind of looking at that. So we have secure over here, and it's like, life's good, grass is green, sun's shining, I'm connected, I feel safe, I'm happy, I'm in love, it's great. Then we've got the anxious, the avoidant. Then you put those two together and you get disorganized. And then you add one more layer to that, and you've got fearful avoidant. So fearful avoidant is anxious and fearful, and the added layer of fear in the attachment. So really what that means is you had a parent that was both a source of love and fear, like safety and terror. So then you had to learn to navigate your nervous system around your parents' nervous system to try to find safety. And through that, you find a lot of hypervigilance. There could be a lot of hardwired patterns into fawning. So, oh my God, let me fix the situation so you don't have an emotional outburst. Or let me walk on eggshells. Let me completely change my identity and how I operate so I don't upset you emotionally. And that's that. And it can be,
categorize them as narcissists, right?
Well, so here's the thing. If we jump to labeling people as like narcissists and things, we kind of miss what's underlying that. So if you look back to an infant, you'd be like, infants are narcissists. They just suck and they just take, and it's all about them and everything's about them. Like, children are necessarily narcissistic, I would say, right? So what you have is a human that in some aspects is completely in that infancy dependency mode when it comes to their emotional and psychological development. So are they doing it like intentionally to try to like fuck you over? No, like that's more of a sociopath or a psychopath. But I think that the word narcissism gets thrown around, and then it's like, oh my God, that person's like a malignant narcissist. Yeah. There are definitely, I think that people all have flavors of narcissism where, and it's again, it's like, am I in alignment with higher self and source, or am I slipping into some sort of animalistic protective mechanism where I am gaslighting myself so hard that I can't see the truth, and thus I am lying to everyone else around me? And so, like, I know this would be a really radical idea to put out there, but I think that if we can start to lean in and have more compassion to those people in our society that we would classify as disgusting and depraved, and like our criminals and our narcissists and all those people. And I'm not necessarily saying that you need to forgive the person for what happened to you. Like, that's an individual journey, and this isn't to discount anything that happened to you, but hurt people, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so, and also where we are weak or vulnerable, we will tend to get hurt until someone comes along and bumps into that wound or that trigger. We'll feel it and go, ouch. So it's like there's this interaction of these two people. And if you have a narcissist, or you seem to attract people with narcissistic wounding, I would just say it's narcissistic wounding, where they're in so much pain. All they can see is themselves, and they're like a black hole. They're just needing, just sucking energy from everyone. That person more than likely did not receive anywhere close to the amount of love and attention and affection that they needed as a baby. But that doesn't mean that it's your responsibility to heal them or fix them. But what is your responsibility is to say, okay, I see that I'm attracting these, and instead of projecting and vilifying them, and of course I'm not saying what they're doing is right, and I know that it's painful, but it's to say, what is it within me that is gravitating towards and opting into these kinds of relationships? Why am I opting in? What is it about me? Where is my wound, or where is my trauma that I keep engaging the same energy? Because at some point, like, the purpose of this journey is to heal and become an empowered adult.
Right.
It is to grow up. It's to grow up so that you can actually allow your like internal like wonder children and those aspects of yourself to like come out and be fully expressed, because they feel fully supported and fully seen. So it's like allowing the triggers to be the awakenings or the initiations that you need to say, what is it in me? Where is this pain coming from? And how do I take full radical responsibility for it to heal it so that I evolve and I become the hero in my own journey?
Yeah. I think that makes sense, because not taking names, but I was in a narcissistic relationship, and it's really painful when you're in the relationship. It's torturous, it's painful. But when I was able to detach and do my healing and work on myself after a few years, there was a lot of compassion in me for that person, because I knew their journey. I knew their childhood trauma. I knew what they've been through. But I had to really detach myself from that person to really clearly see, because I was in constant pain when I was with them. So yes, there was compassion, there was forgiveness, and I did that part. But yes, they've been through the childhood is not really pleasant, of course. But I think it was also about taking ownership. And because I was in that, I went in anxious attachment style. And then I had to do the work on myself and then really see where it was coming from. And then, like you said, just owning it. like where did it start from, why did I attract this kind of person, and then really doing the framework to kind of bringing myself from the anxious attachment to more secure.
Mm-hmm.
So my graph goes like this. Sometimes I'm still triggered and the anxious gets activated.
Yeah.
And then, so it's like more like going back and forth between secure and attachment. So I'm still learning, still on that
Yeah.
journey. But it's really, like you said, it's really about owning yourselves and knowing where it's coming from and doing that inner work and reaching out to the correct and the right people and learning from them. You can't do this on yourself. So I have a therapist. I connected with you as well. So we're kind of like connected and we're helping each other, we're helping ourselves, but it's about really taking control over, like, this has happened, and like you said, why am I attracting this kind of person in my life, seeing where it's coming from your point of view, from your own perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, like what's on my side of the street, what is literally mine to heal.
Yeah,
Like what,
yeah.
like I don't want to take too much responsibility, because like if I find that I'm in partnership with a narcissist and I'm not setting a boundary, that's on me. Like I need to learn how to protect myself and set proper boundaries to say, no, I will not give you a straw to stick in me like I'm a juice box and suck me dry. If I keep on handing them the straw, I gotta be like, whoa, why do I keep doing this? Right?
You train people what you're going to tolerate or not, and if you're training them that whatever you want to do, whatever you want to say, it's okay, they're eventually going to get trained to do that. And that's what I realized, that
Mm-hmm.
it was people pleasing. It was that constant need to keep them happy and let them walk all over you and say, yeah, it's okay, you can walk all over me, it's fine. And then saying, no,
Oh,
I
love it. Do it again.
yeah, yeah, like I said. So it, for me personally, if I speak for myself, I think it's really been empowering, because once you learn and once you heal and once you're not doing that in the new version of you, it's really liberating for yourself. It brings a lot of peace
Yeah.
in you.
You actually create that internal stability where you're like, okay, I know what's what. I know what's mine. I know what's theirs. I can notice my emotions instead of projecting out. And when someone pisses me off, just like trying to stab them with my energetic
Mm,
knives. It's like I'm taking those emotions and I'm bringing them in. I'm like, you are mine. I know you're mine. You belong to me and you have a right to be here. And more than that, you are welcome. And I care about you and I care how you feel. I'm going to bring that in and like move it down my body. Like I'm going to completely take ownership of it. And emotions change when we, like how we feel them changes when we're not resisting them.
yes,
Like if you resist
that's
emotions, you amplify your suffering. It's awful. Like I think it was Buddha that said like, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
yes.
And Joseph Campbell said, every feeling fully felt is pure bliss. And it's like, why would he say that? Was Joseph Campbell a psychopath?
Mm,
Or was he really onto something, that every feeling that you allow to fully feel and vibrate through your body
mm,
can actually bring with it a feeling of bliss if you're not blocking it and you're not turning away from it and trying to, numb it or shame it or judge it or avoid it. It just lands differently and it cycles and then it can be released.
mm. Yes, yes. What are some of the ways to release your feelings? Would you say journal it? Is it just sitting in the feeling?
There's a lot of different practices. If you really look at it, like even just being with yourself and being present and
Mm,
consciously aware of your feelings
mm,
during the day and like noticing them, like they'll cycle like the weather does, and
mm,
you may notice them. And it's like having that internal interaction with yourself, but you can also use your body to move emotions. Like if you're feeling a lot of anxiety about something that's coming up, like you can like go for a speed walk or just go out in nature, like burn some of that energy. You can like clean out your closet, but it's like
act,
being with the
right?
emotions. Yeah, and using them as fuel. Like there's a lot of different thoughts on different practices, and some people would say, well, if you just scream and use like a foam bat or beat your mattress or something, that it doesn't go anywhere. But it absolutely can if you are intentional with what you're doing physically and you allow your emotions to come through. Because if you're not blocking anger, what you may find is underneath it is grief, or it's deep sadness or deep pain, where someone violated your boundaries or they overstepped your values, and you have things under there to process. And the anger that has come up is protective. And all of our emotions ultimately are here to protect us and guide us, so that we can actually co-create our lives, as opposed to unconsciously regurgitating the past.
Interesting. One last question and then we'll wrap it up. Do you think if you're a secure person and I'm an anxious person or an avoidant person, will that relationship work?
It can. And I think it depends on what both people want. If both of them feel like, I want this relationship to work, I'm willing to be in it, I'm willing to put in the work, I'm willing to do my own personal stuff as well as with you, and like have the uncomfortable conversations and repair when there's a rupture, find out what your how you receive love, work on new ways of receiving love, expanding, have similar parallel purposes or lives that work together. Absolutely. I think that you can have a lot of healing, and I think you can heal any relationship. You can have two people that have insecure attachment, and if they're both committed
Yes.
to healing, and they're both committed to up leveling that relationship into like a more loving, reciprocal, healthy relationship, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes. I've also seen that if one person is secure and one person is anxious, and let's say this anxious person is not aware that they're anxious, but since they're with the secure person, their nervous system over time just kind of like relaxes.
Yeah.
And then they hit the base where they also become secure because of being in that safe place for a really long time. So that could also help if a person is unaware. But of course, if you're anxious and avoidant, and you have to work on yourself to make that relationship work.
Well, you could even be someone with an insecure attachment relationship with a secure person, and you could still self-sabotage that relationship.
Yes.
You know,
Especially
you can
avoidant.
still firebomb that relationship if you're not being
Yeah.
intentional. That anxious person,
That's just to
no matter,
steps to it. We're just generally talking about it as a generalized analysis, but
yeah.
it will be individual to individual. All right. Before we wrap up, tell me what are some of the programs that you're offering right now. If people want to reach out to you, how they can. Some tips for them out there.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So let's see. I just taught a master class today, which kind of covered like some of these things. So that was, about the same length. It's a good hour. And if you're interested in watching the replay of that, I have it set up where you can have access to the link, and that will be up for 72 hours. So anyone that wants to watch a master class on healing attachment and healing what gets in the way of you having the relationship you want, you can go to the link in my bio. And then I actually have a program called Relational Alchemy starting in a couple weeks. It's a live coaching program. It is going to be more of like a mastermind. So I'm not taking a lot of people. I'm going to cap out at about 5 so that we can go and do deep work. It'll consist of live coaching. There will be 8 modules with slide decks and all kinds of juicy nuggets. So if you got anything from today, there will be a lot of insights and things that I've learned over the years, things that have been the biggest needle movers for me in there. If you are interested in that, I'm trying to think. At the moment, I just have one link, and it's leading to downloading that.
I did open that link. It wasn't working for me, so I'll check again and let you know.
Yeah, so I went in there because I wanted to update it and add the link, and I think because it had a timer on it, it wasn't working. So I
Okay.
went and changed things, and it seems to be working now, and it has the link for the download.
Okay.
If you see it's not working, let me know. And if anyone watching this, if it's not working, just reach out. Like I'll
Right.
figure it out.
So what right now the only thing that is available is that link where they can go and they can download the masterclass, and then you have the other thing.
Have a group program that is starting that I'm enrolling now for. It's starting in a couple weeks. It's called Relational Alchemy, and
Right.
this course is really designed to help you heal your nervous system in a safe container to actually learn the process of how to self-soothe and co-regulate. And it has a lot of things of like masculine and feminine energy dynamics, polarity. It talks about complementary wounding. But I think the most important thing about the program is it really helps you understand why you are where you are on a deeper level, and also the right process that you can kind of utilize to rinse and repeat to continually heal yourself in upward spiral. And then of course there's a lot of different individual like customizable things that you can do with that for yourself, but it is designed to give you a foundation of really how to do that.
Right.
So space is
Nothing
very
on
limited.
one. Don't have anything on one right now for right now.
At the moment, I think I do have one or two one-on-one spots opening. So I would say the best way, if you are interested in a consult, you can download or you can access the link to that video. And then I do have a link. It's just if you're interested in learning about my program and you do want to enroll, just go to www.epicinitiator.com, my website. A lot of I's in there. / relational alchemy.
Okay.
And that will take you to the program page with all the details, and you can schedule a complimentary discovery call where we hop on and see what's going on for you and like what your major challenges are in the moment, what you really want to create, and just see if it's a good fit. And if it's a win-win and we vibe well and it seems like there's a natural flow to it, then it might be the next right place for you to be on the journey. Then that's amazing. And group like these live coaching containers have so much potential for healing because you're not just actively learning, you're also passively learning, which allows your brain to process in different ways. And you can have so many ahas from watching watching all that change being modeled for you and seeing how it applies in different situations, and even answering questions you may not have known how to ask for yourself. So they do have the tendency to be quite transformational too, and it's really amazing to see.
Awesome, awesome. Well, guys, if you're still confused, I'm going to tag her after this, and you can find her on her page and send her a DM, and she readily replies, and you can get all the information directly from her. Thank you so much. I've learned so much from you.
You are welcome.
And really inspiring as always. I'm sending you so much love. Take good care of yourself.
Thank you. Likewise. This is a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Bye.
Okay, bye.